Okay, we're back again. Part 3 of creativity. Someone whose primary focus in terms of creativity was one of unity, they might interpret this change of focus in a pure abstraction of color, which is a beautiful interpretation of the God love energy expressed in color. Because in illumination, here in physical, light is the thing we associate the most with God, with love. And the phenomena of light is, both in our sensory perception, is the most godlike thing that we can experience here. So one that was focused on light, color in terms of painting, this would be a very spiritual interpretation of the change of focus. Once your consciousness is altered, the manner in which the information is interpreted very much depends. And in some sense, this is also practiced, but also depends upon the individual personality's leanings. Now, for example, someone who is very involved in materialization, say scientists or architects, or industrial designers who are just fascinated with the way materials are shaped and formed and joined together, when they change their focus for a particular problem solving or need-driven intent, even if it is about something like an interpersonal relationship, they might interpret the information, once they had a change of focus, in terms of a material solution, a material representation of the information. So we have architecture, which expresses light, and developing new materials even in people who are working with materialization. And so there are many, many, many different ways of interpreting the information in the creative process. And it's the interpretation generally happens when the person is in the change of focus. But it's not manifested there, because the change of focus and the interpretation that is gleaned in the change of focus has to be brought back into the present state of reality that we exist in. So this may be very apparent, but if the information cannot be brought back into the present, it's often lost. And most of the time, if the will and intent is not strong enough in the creative process, they may not glean the information. They may not have anything to show for it, because they could not hold or bring the concept, the information, when their focus was changed, back into consciousness, or walking, waking consciousness. I myself have lost meditations, believe me. So in the transition, in this bringing back of the gleaned knowledge or increased awareness or insight, however it's interpreted for that person, whether it's music or materialization or color light in the case of artists, the interpretation of the information has to be conceptualized. out in the change of focus and then has to be held to be brought back to present reality. So that also is something that is practice. And they reminded me that I lost many touching interactions that I had while in a change of focus because I could not speak when I was channeling for about a year or so. I could do the meditations, but I couldn't speak them through my voice. I could see and hear, but I couldn't make that connection. So that does take practice. So the fourth and final stage in the creative process is the expression of the knowledge or information in for us, physical, walking, waking reality. And that is the completion of the creative process. Now, many people may bring in an idea and not execute it. Many people may hear a sonata and not write it down. Many people may have a poem flowing from an altered state of consciousness and not perceive themselves as a poet, and so not write it down. And while those who practice in any specific area, even a scientist, to execute the gleaned or acquired knowledge, or the increased or extra sensibilities, and interpret them in physical. And so it's beyond even the ability to access or glean information from this change of focus. It also takes the will to execute it, the benefit from it in walking, waking life. A lot of people simply bring back information as knowledge and concept and are not able to hold it in their minds and think about it and execute it appropriately in their lives in a tangible way. So it stays in an abstract. So we have to emphasize that creativity is used for any possible problem solving in life. Creativity is tied to it. I'm very creative with my horses, but what I'm doing is I'm tapping into their knowledge, their sensibilities, their consciousness, and then understanding how they react and respond to what I am doing with them. My physical application is combined with their own creative sense. So creativity is much less tied to what we think of as artistic activities than the current or conscious understanding of problem solving. And so many people, now they're saying that people might reject when I write this chapter on creativity because they don't think of themselves as artists. But everybody uses the creative process constantly. Any sentient, self-knowing creature, including plants and animals, obviously, express creativity. They say minerals also express this, but they could not explain how this happens. So we're not going to talk about crystals and what we think of as inanimate or inert substances here on the planet, because they can't really explain it in a way that we would understand it. So we're not going to go there. But apparently, even what we think of as inanimate can have a creative orientation. they're actually suggesting that I open the chapter with the last statement that creativity is about problem solving, not being an artist. So even if you're not an artist, understanding creativity is great to know. By no means is creativity limited. So now they want to talk about what art is. And now I'm thinking to myself, even within the meditation, how long this is going. So I wanted to finish on creativity and not jump over to art. As we're finding so much of creativity is the process by which some will-driven, any-driven desire, a change of focus is undertaken in the manifestation that one is in the energy dynamic the person is participating in, to access information or knowledge, a different sensibility or point of view that they have in their present state, what we call our walking, waking reality. The focus is altered in order to access information. The information is then interpreted and encapsulated or defined in some way or interpreted in some way while we are in the change of focus. And then that interpretation is carried back or transferred back into our walking, waking reality state of consciousness. And then it's executed or manifested within that reality. This process goes on all over the universe, in every level, in every energy dynamic. And if you think about it, the creative process is the process by which God manifests its own energy expressions throughout the universe. It's God sending itself out in a change of focus, expressing knowledge and thereby gathering information as we all express in that change of focus. And then we carry back this to our expressions are completed, back to source, back to God, and contribute experience, contribute expression back to all that is. So the creative process is the model for all that is, for reality, for existence. And I actually think that's a good place to stop today. So thank you.